want to respect your time, feel free. We have the chat feature. So as things are popping into your mind, go ahead and put them there. And we can answer those either if we see them or we'll answer them at the end as we go. Just so you know, this meeting is being recorded and we'll post it for you guys after as well to review. But let's go ahead and move in. If you're not familiar with our leadership team, it is myself, Dr. Deba Manny, Dr. Raquel Kapler, and Dr. Juliana Moreno. They serve as your kind of leadership team. I don't do much. I'm just the talking head today, but they're a great leadership team and we appreciate all the work that they do. If you have not joined our SIG before, maybe this is your first time interacting with us, there's a QR code to join our SIG. It just takes you to the ACSM website to kind of register. If you can't find it later, just simply Google ACSM SIG education group and it will pop up the same kind of information. We do want to give you guys the opportunity to also let us know what you guys want to see for the upcoming spring webinar. We now have an ACSM kind of email that we've started for this SIG group. So it's acsmedusig@gmail.com. If you have ideas for a spring webinar, we would love to hear those. We want to make sure that our special interest group is meeting the needs of our membership. And so we want to hear from you guys what you want to see. That's how we came up with this idea for AI. Things that we have talked about and that have been on our list of things that members have kind of constantly told us about is one, accreditation. So that's the CAA-HEP for ACSM, but also the NSCA. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, we can try to find some guest speakers for our spring webinar on accreditation, or we can do something similar to what we did last spring, which is kind of a potpourri. We take a few smaller issues and we don't really have a speaker. We all just get together and kind of talk about what those things look like from lab classes to A&P. So if you have an idea, please email us. Or if you like one of the two that are on here, you can send us an email at acsmedusig@gmail.com in order to let us know which one you would prefer to see. Additionally, we want to let you guys know that we are working on our special interest group webpage. There's a QR code that you can scan to get access to that now. You can be taken to that webpage if you haven't seen it, and the web address is there as well. We really want to make this the central location where everyone goes for our special interest group. We're looking at doing a lot of things in the future, but right now we're just updating it. It hadn't had a lot of updates since 2001. And one of our members, Amber Chetlet, I may have pronounced that wrong. I'm terrible with pronunciations. Is updating that for us. She is doing a great job there. And so one of the things we want to keep you guys aware of is here in the near future, we are looking at starting a perspective blog. So that blog will be where you can submit what you're doing in your classroom or what's going on in education from your perspective. And you'll be able to submit for those, and those will go on our website. And then we can share those out through our Facebook page, email, and LinkedIn account. And so go ahead and get familiar with the website and then be on the lookout for emails of that coming up. Probably in the next couple months, we'll start activating that and trying to do this on either a bi-weekly or a monthly basis. Juliana, do you want to talk a little bit now about our WK award?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Julie Marino from UNC Charlotte here. Just want to announce that we are now, it's nice and early, but we're now accepting submissions for the Wolters Kluwer Innovation in Teaching Award. The award recognizes exercise science educators who are doing creative and innovative things in the classroom and assessing their effectiveness. So we are ready to accept submissions. I can put a link to the flyer with all of the information and the criteria in the chat. But on the next slide, Jonathan, you have plenty of time. So we're accepting applications until March 6th, 2026, but we're ready now. Just want you to start thinking about it. Applicants need to be members of the SIG. And we are also looking for 2 volunteers to serve on the award selection committee. If you submit an application for the award, you can't serve on the award selection committee, obviously. But if you're interested, you can email us at the SIG email address and express your interest to serve. So thank you.
But anyway, all right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now that we've got the business part out of the way, we will get to the portion where everyone came to listen today. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Katie Hirsch to talk about AI and research. Dr. Hirsch is an assistant professor in the Department of Exercise Science at the University of South Carolina, Arnold School of Public Health. Her research focuses on practical applications of nutrition, exercise to sustain body composition, metabolic health, and exercise performance across the lifespan, with an emphasis on female physiology and women's health. Her most recent work is focused on applying innovative methods to better capture and interpret hormonal health advances, both physiological research and personalized nutrition strategies for women. And so with that, I will let her take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks everyone for having me today. Excited to talk about this topic of AI and research. It's something that I feel like I'm learning something new every day and exploring more and more of how I can use some of these AI tools within research, within writing, all of the above. So I'm not going to do anything crazy specific today, but my hope today is to just give you a lot of ideas, whether you're completely new to AI or maybe a little more experienced, for things you can use with your research. So since I'm first to talk, I thought I should give some basic definitions so we all know what we're talking about. So broadly, we tend to talk about AI, which is artificial intelligence, which is just machines designed to perform tasks that typically require human thinking. So it's a lot of things, a lot of processing, a lot of systematic systems, things that can really be automated. Whether you think you've used AI or not, you probably have. We're pretty familiar with these things like language translation, our GPS giving us directions, or suggesting movies on Netflix. So all of these things, our AI processed are picking up on our human patterns, things that we do, and automatically helping us move through life. More specifically, we have these things called GPTs, which are generative pre-trained transformer models. They're a type of large language model used mostly in AI chatbots. So they're specialized AI to do human-like text, and they're trained on really large databases of just content to recreate what seems to be novel content. And I put quotations around novel because it is coming from a database, but it spits out something that feels very human-like, very novel-like. So the one we're most familiar with is ChatGPT. It's an AI chatbot specialized to do just that, chat with you, and have a human-like conversation. But if we go into ChatGPT, into this Explore tab, there's actually a whole bunch of these different GPT models and different AI models that have partnered with a chat type function to help you better move through some of these AI models and spaces. And all of these have been tailored, specialized, specifically trained for certain tasks. So anything from research, data analysis, all the way to the image generation. And then if you would like a travel guide, you could go for that. So there's millions of things in there. So the ones I'm going to focus on today, I spend most of my time in these two models, ChatGPT and one called SciSpace. There's other platforms similar to SciSpace that specialize in science, but this is the one I happen to use and works for me most of the time. So chat, I think, is really good for general thought, like creative brainstorming, writing and editing, normal conversation type situations. Versus when I'm doing more scientific thinking, brainstorming, science-specific type questions, I do that more in the SciSpace platform. So key areas I use this for, idea generation and brainstorming, study design, analysis support, drafting, writing, reviewing, and then translation and communication. What was kind of interesting to me, I was coming up with this list and I was like, I should see who's done research on this and publish something about real uses in AI for research. And so came across this paper and pretty much said the exact same thing. So I guess supportive evidence there. But I thought this was a really good paper, really outlined some key areas we can leverage AI throughout research. I'm just going to highlight some key ones I like to use to give some examples. So the first one, idea generation and brainstorming. This one, I have a blast with research. It's a really good kind of sounding board and way to just help you generate ideas, maybe check your thoughts. I do a lot of this within SciSpace because, again, it's a science-focused platform. It will give you references. And the way I think of it is it gives you considerations maybe you didn't think of. So some ways I use this, some way you could use this. It's a great way to quickly gather background knowledge on a topic. So rather than having to read through a bunch of papers just to get where is the field, if I haven't thought about it in a while or I'm kind of entering a new space, I can quickly ask it, what is the current understanding on said topic? And it'll give me a pretty good starting summary that I can then go down some rabbit holes and pathways. Another good spot is to find knowledge gaps and gaps in the research and literature. So after maybe I ask give me the background summary, I could then follow up with what are some gaps in the knowledge? What are areas this research is starting to go? What are areas of interest? I've also used this before in taking a series of reviews on a topic and saying what's kind of missing from all these reviews that have been done that maybe still hasn't been well addressed or is missing. So that's kind of a good way to just like quickly sort through and kind of find those gaps so then you can efficiently move forward. The last one is where I have a ton of fun, is with hypothesis generation and interpretation. So we're all very well trained, very knowledgeable in certain areas and topics, and maybe we're hyper-focused on certain things. But feeding those ideas maybe into one of these ChatGPT, SciSpace type programs may help just bounce some ideas and see if there's things maybe you hadn't considered or fully thought about, or just hadn't thought about in a long time, so you kind of forgot about it. So a really specific example, I have a background in body composition assessments and have some really niche interest in raw bioimpedance values. So those electrical currents that go through your body, resistance, reactance, phase angle, can tell me specific things about cell quality and bioelectrical properties of the body. I only know like a handful of people that can have an in-depth conversation about those things with me. And so when I'm thinking through my hypotheses, I could call up those people, but they're not always available. So this is a way for me to either kind of play with some concepts I'm thinking about, seeing if it makes total sense. Or maybe I'm seeing some results and I'm like, I think maybe this could be an explanation, but just want to see if that makes sense as well. So this is another way to just bounce some ideas. I would say when you're asking these questions, be as unbiased as possible. Don't try to guide it and lead it in certain directions. These chatbots aim to please most of the time. So we want to be pretty unbiased in our question asking and then be very critical in what it feeds back. Like, does it actually make sense? If not, dig deeper, whatever. But it's a good starting space, I think, for kind of a sounding board and idea generation. All right, the next kind of area is study design and analysis support. There's tons of things you could do here, but starting with design considerations, maybe you're trying to form a study, design a study, and again, you're just trying to come up with some different ideas, what you could do. So this is one example. I recently had a grant funded with the American pistachio growers. As I was writing that grant, I was brainstorming, you know, what could a comparator group with pistachios be? I had ideas, but again, was just trying to think about things maybe I hadn't thought of. So this is an example. It sped out 5 different options with some little explanations of why that could be a comparator and things you might look for. So just an example, again, to help with some of that brainstorming, again, thoughts maybe you didn't think of. The next one I think is kind of fun is for budget estimates. A lot of times we're trying to quickly gather what's this going to cost? What do I need to budget for this? So this is an example of quickly calculating some travel costs. I could say, what would it cost me to go to the upcoming ACSM national meeting for 1, 2, 3 people? Here's what we're going to plan to do. And it'll quickly pull those numbers for you and give you some rough estimates rather than having to like go gather it all. Another example, I did something similar for like supplies. I said, here's kind of what I'm trying to analyze in a study. What would that cost me? Took into account all the different pieces, supplies, giving me a per person cost on this one. So some quick ways, again, when we're trying to get rough estimates, just quick ideas, quick way to pull that data together rather than hunting it all down if you don't have it. And then the last area that I'm new to and starting to explore is how it can help with data analysis. So we've got someone over at our library who specializes in AI data analysis. So we've been working a lot with her on some of our more complex data sets. So I think this is really great when you have large data sets for helping sort through it, organize it. Pattern identification. I work a lot with female hormones, which are highly variable, very different between women, within women. So I'm exploring ways of how can it pick up on patterns that I'm maybe not seeing with the trained eye and kind of doing a comparison there. And then a new area I've been exploring a lot with is code writing. I'm not necessarily the most trained in writing code for analyses, but it's actually a really good partner for helping write some of that code and cleaning up code for whatever you're trying to accomplish. I know a lot of people that are good at coding use it as kind of a assistant to that. Julius AI is one for that. Both work pretty well, but that's another stat-specific option if you want to go that route. All right, thanks. Last couple areas here, drafting, writing, reviewing. I use chat a lot for this one. When drafting, editing, grants, manuscripts, there's a couple ways I might go about this. I kind of use it as an editor or assistant. One example, one time I had a really complete outline that I then fed to AI and just said, put this in paragraph form for me. And then I went back to that paragraph form and filled in with all my details, made it sound like me, but could then manipulate it and change it from there. Another thing I've done before, I self-drafted, but it was way too long and I was having trouble getting the story to flow really well. So fed it back and asked it for feedback, helped me make it more concise, and then played with it from there. So it works well as kind of an editor type assistant. I've also used it for drafting study documents. So you could take, if you have a really complex protocol that you've already written out with all the details, you can pair it with maybe a consent form draft from a previous study and say, fill in the information from my protocol into this said draft for my consent form, and then take said information. And now let's make a recruitment email. And it's a quick way to maybe quickly populate some documents that you can then go in and edit and refine. Saves you a little bit of time in that front. The feedback and editing, I use this again a lot. Emails, letters, reviews. I write out all my notes, thoughts, but it's nice sometimes to get a wipe over to help it sound a little more professional or make it more concise where I feel like I got kind of wordy and get to the point. So helpful, again, kind of just streamlining, screening some of your writing. And then the last one, support documents. If you've ever done like NIH grants, sometimes there's like letters of support that I'm like, I've never written that letter before. What should even go in there? And so it is a way to say, here's kind of the information I know. How might a drafted letter look like that I can then modify, clean up, make sound more like me. So helpful for kind of drafting sections with known criteria to help kind of guide you and make sure you're covering the right things. And then the last part, this is my favorite probably use of AI in research. I care a whole lot about translation and communication. The research I do is very applied and I want people to be able to use it. So This is really great for language assistance and population targeting. So I have a few examples here of how our brains think like scientists, researchers, and even if we think we're saying it in a very simple way, sometimes we're using words that people are like, I still have no clue what that means. I'm not a scientist or a researcher, nor am I in the exercise science space. So I have fed it recruitment scripts before and asked it to make it sound more like the population I'm targeting, using words they might use or appeal to them. I've used it to help modify flyers, to give me feedback on colors or ways to arrange it, kind of like a graphic designer or media person, just to quickly help me maybe get it in a better spot to recruit. And then step-by-step instructions, what I think was maybe clear, again, not clear to everybody. So it's another way to test it, see if it is clear, where else can we fill in steps to make it clear to whatever population we're working with. And then a couple final examples, using this for non-science communication. So I think like social media avenues, or with our students in class, how do we better communicate and put all this in a context that makes sense to the target population? So I hear all the time, I work in women's health, and so I get all these students that are like, I want to learn more about women's health, but I'm not a scientist and the research is really hard for me to read. And then I know social media is maybe not my best choice, but I don't know where else to go. So how do I learn this stuff? And so I've worked in a couple avenues to find ways to make this a little bit easier for people. And it's, I think, a great kind of initial learning tool and lower some of our barriers to learning. So this was an example I did for firefighters one time. This was a paper I wrote about protein and firefighters, and they're like, great, I don't know what all these words mean all the way. They could take this paper and stick it into one of these GPTs and then ask it, summarize this paper, help me get the key take-home points, but make it understandable at an 8th grade level. That's what most people can understand. And then why does this matter to me as a firefighter? And then within seconds, it spits out to them the main aspects, the key summary, the main points, and then why this information would apply to them in a firefighter context. And so I think you can take that, any paper really, to help you translate some of that and help people. That's how they learn better, right? When they can anchor it into something they understand, they relate to, they do every day. So it's a really great way to translate that. You're good. And then this was a cool project I did in a similar vein. I had a communication student come find me. Question, I'm not a science student, but I want to do this. And so we worked together over a year to find ways to quickly take my knowledge and break it down into concepts she could understand, and then that she could ultimately put into little digestible lessons. And she could work her graphic design magic and quickly help maybe put science and information in a more understandable format. So that resulted in, she took this kind of to the next level. You're good, keep going. And created this entire beta version of an app called Explore Her, where she made these little lessons to learn about different aspects of women's health. She animated it, she made word banks, she went all in on this thing. It was pretty cool, but it was a fun way for us to learn how to quickly maybe translate some information and get it to a spot where she could work with it and then do her graphic design part on it. So kind of some neat avenues for quick translation. And again, trying to get it to the level of our population we're trying to get it to. So with that, just some final thoughts. I think AI in research, it's a really good tool for supporting thinking and innovation. A great tool just for brainstorming, bouncing ideas, using it as an editor and kind of an assistant to streamline some processes. When we use it, I think we need to be very specific and clear on what you want it to do. It is a robot, it is a computer, it can't read your mind, even though it seems like that sometimes. So the better you prompt it, the better feedback you get. but we want to try to be unbiased and then really critical thinking in what it's feeding back. And then I think ultimately it can be a really powerful translation and communication tool to help us better communicate the science and get it to our populations. So with that, that's what I got. Thanks for letting me chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was awesome and great to hear. So everyone here now, we will do a Q&A discussion kind of chat after we get through both presentations. So we're going to move right on into our presentation on maybe on AI and education. And so I'd like to welcome Dr. Dan Deringer. He is an exercise science department chair and associate professor in health and human performance at Bethel University in Tennessee. Bethel University is a private university with an enrollment of around 3,000 students located in McKenzie, Tennessee. And so I'd like to turn the floor over to him to start talking about AI in exercise science classrooms.
Thank you. Again, Dr. Hirsch, what a great presentation. It's always tough to follow a great one, right? But we'll try to just talk in certain directions here. What my discussion points are going to be today is actually how we apply AI in the classroom and what we could do with our lectures, what we could potentially do with labs, and how do you do work with it on a day-to-day operation. So, you know, as far as walking into the classroom and teaching, how does AI matter in higher ed? What roles are we seeing it? And before I start on this, I just want to go back. Please, thank you. Okay, I'll start on a second. We have to look at AI as my belief is we have to look at AI as just the largest repository of information, the grandest library you could imagine. But there's flaws still. I think all of us that have been working with it, experimenting with it, like I have in the classroom on a day-to-day basis with our students, is that there's flaws in it, meaning check your work, have your students review their materials. You review your materials, and understanding that these communication feeds still need a lot of thought, and most importantly, it allows us to, well, I believe it does one of two things. One, it allows us to open up our critical thinking skills with our students to push them to another level of understanding. And also we can accelerate that learning. AI is a great ability to become very efficient in our time with our time usage, our time management skills. So it's got a lot of great things. So that's where I say the growing role of AI in teaching and learning is going through an acceleration point we probably haven't seen or even been prepared for in many ways. It gives us the opportunity to augment and just not replace us as professors, right? That was the fear, right? The AI, is it the next Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator for higher education? Probably not. But what it does, it's an augmented tool for us, okay? So it's like an advocate for us. But we can bring theory into practice, and obviously, as mentioned before, it helps change that paradigm of instruction. And we have to think about teaching critical thinking skills in many ways, bringing back, many of us were taught the Socratic method of teaching, where it's more of an inquisition and advancement, especially in smaller groups, smaller classes for one-on-one teaching. Please, next slide. Thank you. Obviously, the administrative part of it that it'll work with. Heavy grading and administrative workload, it can accelerate all of that. It encourages student engagement, and that was probably the biggest key. Not just write a paper and turn it in anymore. Ask your students, why are they actually trying to do this topic? What is important to them? How is this topic, in a general sense, critical for them? And again, we can translate complex physiology concepts and apply it into learning, especially in health education. and in that area. Next, please. So how is it a teaching partner for us? Well, it can help automate a lot of routine tasks. I use this as an example. If it's capable to do that, I'm going to try this. Excuse me, guys. I created a actual, there we go. You can create an avatar. Now, first thing first, before people start getting creative about making their own personal avatars, please understand that's not recommended. I know it's not recommended by my university or anybody else. So I use this general generated AI avatar, but I can use it as a teaching assistant in a lab class. It can be posted online. It can do a lot of things that could help you teach your coursework. Just a 30-second blurb, just
Hello,
something real
today's
general.
presentation will introduce how AI can assist a professor in the classroom. Given the focus on exercise physiology and biomechanics, an AI assistant can help the professor in the classroom by providing talking avatars to introduce weekly labs or explain complex charts. Add a consistent branded presence across your resources, reinforcing Bethel University's identity. Improve student engagement by mixing text-based worksheets with short avatar-led video explanations.
So that's just one example. I think all of us that have tried to experiment with different AI tools can also understand that, you know, we have different avenues, and I just use it in some of my labs and my lab classes. But it can support that diverse learning skill. Again, you can post this onto your LMS systems and use it on a daily basis for students. They seem to rather enjoy that. Again, we can use it for video analysis and interpretation, especially in my exercise physiology or biomechanics class that I know I teach. We can use the tool, and it can become integrated with a lot of what we use already for some of the wearable GPS data, EMGs, ECGs, a lot of things that you would work in the lab. You can use that to help integrate some of the information and quickly develop worksheets, planning sheets, lab sheets for students. So we also see virtual reaction for that. We have different automated graphing systems. Though I know technology has taken us so far away from graphing, we can do a lot with it, but it can also integrate and automate that. It could be a benchmark for students' results. You can pull up data, run simple t-tests and ANOVAs and so forth that we're doing on a daily basis in the classroom that might take more time for a student to understand and learn. And it can also develop those sheets. It helps us become very efficient in the classroom, and between grading rubrics, lab reports, generation of any type of quiz banks you want to try to develop, adapts material for accessibility. It is just so, it cuts down your prep time a lot, which helps all of us gain more time to work in our contact. So with that, next slide, thank you. Yeah, again, this allows us to engage with our students a little better in the population. We have personalized AI tools for tutors that are available for us. I myself, and everybody has their tools they work with. I use I use ChatGPT, Perplexity, the Copilot from Microsoft. There's some different AI student apps that can translate lectures into notes and into video. So we can all use that as tools in our classroom, as I call it, a gamify the challenges, right? You can design and design different strategies and planning, different methodologies in the lab, in the classroom, and in research papers that you want them to pursue. But also, and more importantly, like I mentioned earlier, that paradigm of how we can evolve our critical thinking skills and how that can, again, assist the student in understanding a deeper understanding of that concept. We can accelerate learning. we can accelerate teaching using these tools. Again, like I had mentioned a minute ago, it allows us to understand concepts, but what are some of the pitfalls that we see? What are some of the limitations that might see? Well, we have to consider the academic integrity issue. Obviously, that was the first. Every English professor and faculty meetings are concerned about. Well, what about the plagiarism issues? Well, we have tools to help you with that. We also have tools in literacy, and obviously to augment, not control or automate the professors themselves. So again, some takeaways from this presentation. It saves time. It enhances our applied learning and data analysis skills. It gives us time to prep and do more work in and outside it, but most importantly, it changes that paradigm. What are we trying to do now in higher ed? We can accelerate, I believe we can accelerate student learning by using these tools.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. That was wonderful to hear about those uses in both research and education. So what we'd like to do now is open the floor up for questions for discussion. It doesn't have to be questions directed exactly at either one of our guest speakers. If you have things that you would like to talk about with your uses in AI or things that you've done or questions you have, the group is here to answer and talk and openly discuss those, or you can direct them at any of our guest speakers. We also would ask, you can put them in the chat, which is great, but we know how this is in education. It'd be much more interactive if you guys would unmute, introduce yourself, and then go ahead and ask your question or let us know what you have to say about AI and teaching or research.
I guess I'll start, Jonathan.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Doug beat me to it.
I tried to give that standard amount of time where you wait, but I was like, okay, I'm done.
It would be you, Doug.
Both of you, excellent talk. Really enjoyed it. So just a couple of questions, kind of one for each of you. Katie, I'm just kind of curious, how do you say credit AI in like any publication submissions and how you used it? What kind of feedback do you get? Do you get any feedback from reviewers from any of the ways that you use it and how you might report it to your publication journals?
Yeah, good question. I've started to see some journals requiring like a AI use statement. And a lot of times we just kind of have a statement that says like AI was used in the editing, refining type process, which is heavily what we're using it for. Honestly, by the time it's in my final publication, I've then refined it so much that it's probably back to a lot of my own content. But I usually will just write it in there and say like it was used in the editing, refining for clarity type process. Yeah.
Okay. And no real
I
issues
haven't like had to report on actual data analysis yet. But that's something we'll work on with some upcoming work we have. How we'll report that and kind of reporting our processes there. So that's a new spot for me. So I don't have a clear answer on that yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then Daniel, whichever you prefer.
It's Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
I'm Doug or Douglas, so I always try and
that's all right. That's all right. The technology says Daniel.
I love AI and trying to incorporate it, and my students are always amazed. Like I'm the only professor on campus that actually encourages its use as properly as I understand to use it. But, I think it is great for saving time, but I think at the same time, it takes a lot of time to learn these tools and how to use them properly. We're small, just like you guys here in Athens, Tennessee, at Tennessee Wesleyan. So do you guys have resources available on campus, or anybody have resources available on campus that kind of help teach some of these ways to use tools and things like that?
In short, no.
Yeah.
That's part of it. I think is where it is kind of the wild, wild west out there in this field.
Yeah.
I do know that more of us in the um, science fields, science curriculum areas are using AI than, let's say, some of the social sciences or the English department is so far doing. But and you're right, there's this gap right now. I think the couple advantages we see that I've seen early on, and I've always been an advocate for technology, especially at smaller universities, because it helps us close the gap from larger universities with bigger budgets. That technology can help us in the lab and in the classroom, uh, and AI is again another tool for that. Like for instance, I'm experimenting with a biomechanics manual, and you really have to take time, as you mentioned, to work with AI to develop something like that. It's what I've done to this point. It's not publishable by any means. It's a manuscript at best, and it's just something that when you try to use these tools, you have to teach yourself sometimes. A lot of this has to be self-taught, and but that's okay. We're all working through it, but. I think that's another advantage or something out there we need to look into is what exactly can everyone need and use? What teaching tools, tech groups can actually help us as resources? Because that's something in the future that I hope that all of us look into at our universities. I really do. We have some training seminars my university has given us. We can, but everything is so new about AI. I don't want to totally discredit anybody at their university, but I don't know how many schools it's so new and what we're trying to do. I don't know how much work is being done and just having to teach us.
Yeah.
And as faculty, I think that's definitely something we all have to look into each university. And when they come up on a good idea, guys, spread the word. We need to copy it and replicate it as fast as we can because it's being used out there. Our students have been using it, right? We need to guide them in the process
Yeah.
because AI needs revisions. Anybody that's used it would know there's errors. There's, as mentioned, Dr. Hirsch has mentioned, right? You need to go ahead and give it a fine tooth comb look. And AI really doesn't do that for us yet. It's not
Yeah.
that clean.
And I think that's what's been accepted most by my students is like they're appreciative of a professor actually taking interest in this tool and trying to actually
Oh,
teach them
yeah.
how to use it. So
Well, I
I think,
agree. I was complimented once the other day because I'm the only one trying to develop a teaching avatar. you know. But I always tell them, don't make your own avatars because those companies will own that and they can do whatever they want with it. So watch it. It's your own,
thank
as
you
I
all very
say to
much.
my college students, it's own NIL.
Awesome. Who else has comments or questions? I know we've got one in the chat that just said that Gemini AI and Gemini Enterprise is amazing for sport and exercise science. Being able to connect apps within your workspace and create AI agents is a game changer from looks like Dr. Jamie Roa.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
My
Jamie.
name is Jaime Roa. Thanks for this opportunity. I've been working with AI for several years now. I was able to actually be a keynote speaker in the past annual ACSM annual meeting back in Atlanta. And yeah, I think I've used a lot of tools. I've used ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, even Grok AI. And as time passes, I think that it's very dynamic. Each one of these models change in a different way. But I think Gemini AI right now has the best potential, at least till now. If you use Gemini Enterprise, you can connect apps and all your workspace, all your articles, and they talk within each other. And giving that AI the context it needs for many of the prompts that you use, I think it's really a game changer. And you can develop your own AI agents for teaching, for research. So I don't know if you guys have any experience using Gemini, but from my experience, it has been great.
Yeah, thanks. That's great to hear, and I want to echo that sentiment of I've moved more towards Gemini lately, and I think it's important that it's been said a couple of times here in the last few minutes of these are still changing and changing very rapidly. What you liked for yesterday may not be what you like today based on an update and how they change these models and whatever else they're doing. And so I think it's important for the people who are looking at using this or have been using this that you may notice a change after a little while, and it may be nothing that you've done. It may be some software update that they've done on the back end, and you may want to try exploring a different one like Gemini or some of these others. I think that's what I've experienced over the last couple months when ChatGPT 5 first came out.
Good. I'd like to ask a question. Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Professor Roa, what's your you've experienced for this over the last few years? So why Gemini versus some of the others? What are the positives and negatives of Gemini? I haven't
Well,
used it, but I'm going to now.
yeah, well, first of all, the language it uses for drafting, I think it's more natural, a little bit more natural than ChatGPT. I know that you
Okay.
can tweak through it. ChatGPT uses a language that sometimes doesn't seem so natural. So I know that there's a lot of words that you use, like unwavering and things like that. Specific words that that they come from AI. I catch students using it all the time. Gemini is a little bit more natural. You could use the canvas within the Gemini, so you can tweak it much more easier. I know that ChatGPT has a similar kind of a way to work through drafts, but I like the answers it gives. So, for example, I'm in sports medicine, and I could actually I've been researching a lot of how to use it, for example, for lab analysis, X-ray or imaging analysis. And the answers it gives, the output it gives, it's incredible. I think it's a little superior than ChatGPT, and Grok is also there. I mean, I think those are the three best AI models right now. But yeah, Gemini is more natural. It has a better output for at least exercise science. And obviously, it's multimodal, so you could use it for other things such as AI agents and audio and visual. You could give it a chance. It's pretty good.
I'm going to add that to my list of what
Yeah,
I want to experiment with. Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
sure.
How much of that, Jonathan, stop. How much of that do you think is related to as you use one more, right? It kind of builds up your database of things you've asked it and it kind of learns what you're doing and how you tend to ask things. How much of that do you think comes out of like, I've used it more, so it's a little more trained to my context versus they are better? I know they're both changing a lot. I'm just curious how much you think that plays into it.
Well, I think there's two key players there. One is how they trained. They're trained a bit differently. I mean, Google has Google, so it has I think it has the best potential for growing. And plus the servers that I know that Google's using versus ChatGPT. So I think that it's also the servers, because what people do not know is that for example, in a specific hour of the day, it might work even better than at other hours of the day, depending on how if their servers are congested or not. So I know that that's one of the things you have to note. And regarding your context, yes, as you use it better, and if it has long-term memory, which ChatGPT has, Google now has it, Grok doesn't have that well long-term memory. But yeah, if you give it more context, I think that's one of the things that makes it better, as well as the interaction between your workflow. So Google has Workspace, so you can integrate a lot of Google apps that work together. They talk to each other. For example, if you have Google Drive and all your research articles are there, like I have, there could be the dozens or hundreds of articles, Gemini has the ability to talk within each other without having to like drag and drop in the AI model. So I think that
Yeah.
makes your workflow a lot easier too.
Sure. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Another important
guess
thing. Oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, I apologize. I guess I'm using this as a platform to ask one more question that I'm curious about what everyone here on the site is doing in the classroom. How do you enhance your students' critical thinking skills? That's to me is really one of the biggest challenges I've been when I put this together and when I've been using AI over the last year and a half. Is the whole idea is to use this wealth of information that's available to all of us. And what strategies and techniques are you using to enhance your critical thinking skills for your students?
I'll start as other people are thinking, just because I had a conversation with a colleague the other day, and so I've given to the fact that they're going to use chat for everything. And so in one of the assignments I do in my exercise prescription class is we used to have a discussion where they had to build an actual exercise prescription and they had to critique each other's and make it better. Now I just tell them to go to ChatGPT, have it make a prescription for a particular person, and then they have to post what they put, like show the screenshots from ChatGPT or whichever one they use, and then critique it from there. Now they could get that critique from, AI as well, but usually it makes them dive in of like, what do you see the errors here for? And occasionally you'll get the student of, hey, there are no errors in this. And I'm like, well, then go do that workout, right? Like I want it to make a workout for you. You put in your information, you go do that workout and you tell me whether that was actually beneficial. And they'll usually come back and say, I'm really sore. And I'm like, agreed. It doesn't understand that kind of initial pain that you may feel. So I get them to critically think about it by the fact that it doesn't know everything. It's just a good tool.
To expand on that, this year in my exercise testing class, we separate testing and prescription. But what I did is for the pre-participation screening process, I gave them the prompt for AI to turn it into a personality and basically hold a conversation with them as the exercise professional. And I was actually pretty impressed by the questions. We started the assignment in class so that I could kind of work through it with them initially. And they couldn't ask just yes or no questions. They had to have a conversation. Yes, I know it's AI, but it technically does respond to you kind of in a conversational tone. And they just had to critically analyze, what are they saying? How do you get more information about something that might be specific to that case or whatever it may be. And they actually really enjoyed it. And some of them, like just the questions I was getting in class, like, how would I expand on this? I'm like, well, that's the whole point here. Like, how would you expand on that? So I am in prescription next year. I'm going to be doing what Jonathan was talking about and having them critically analyze AI generated prescriptions. But I turned AI into a person for them, gave them the prompt, and then basically said, you're not allowed. And they copy and paste their entire AI conversation. They answer the ACSM pre-screening algorithm questions. They have to highlight where in their conversation they were able to answer that question without just asking the specific question. Like they had to get it from the conversation, basically.
And I'll share as well, Alicia Bryan, Columbus State University. This is my first semester with utilizing AI being embedded into the classroom. And I'm using it on multiple levels for different classes, depending on where they are. So for my 2000 level weight control class, I actually started out the semester with the conversation show. First day when we go through the syllabus and we talk about my AI framework or guardrails that I have in the class, I'm like, Greg, I have it embedded and we're going for it and we're doing it, but teaching them the ethical piece. I just had them to put in a prompt to say, you know, how do I lose 10 pounds? And this is my weight control class. And so they looked at the information that was given and we talked about it as a class. And I said, okay, well, what are some of the, any of your GPTs ask you questions or try to clarify further? And then what were some of the things that you would consider about weight control, you know, losing that 10 pounds. And so it got them to thinking about the questions. And I framed the classroom from that point into here are some things that we're going to talk about. And throughout the class, we had them utilize the GPT, but then also reflecting on the outputs that they would get back in response to some of the concepts that we've mentioned in class. So that's one example. The second example I have is with my medical terminology course. And a previous assignment was that they had to create a case study. And this is after we've gone through a number of chapters. They had to just make up a case study and their peers had to guess the diagnosis. So this is a differential diagnosis case study. But what I had them to do this time was they still had to conceptualize the differential diagnosis case study, but I had them to use Chat GPT or their preferred GPT in order to give them an initial prompt. So I created a worksheet that they could go through and put in step by step, like what was the initial prompt, and then they pasted the AI outputs and they had to track the changes they made to the output so that they really were able to gain control over the case that they wanted to present to their peers. And with that assignment, because I wanted to see their information, you know, how they critiqued the AI output, that helped me to see their understanding of medical terminology as well. So that's just a couple of examples of how I've tried to embed the tool.
Awesome. Those are some great ideas, and I don't want to stop the conversation, but we are kind of getting towards the end of our actual time together, so I always want to be respectful of that. And so, just a quick reminder, guys, that the annual meeting is coming up on May 26th through 29th of 2026 in Utah. We are planning on having our annual meeting there where we have a get together, we get to see each other, actually talk in person. And will also be where we present our Waltz Galore Award. There's a flyer in the chat, and we will send out an email with kind of giving some more direction on that, along with a recording of today's session. And so just kind of keep that in mind. If you want to volunteer to help review abstract for that, we would love that. Just send us an email. And then also, if you are wanting to prepare a submission, go ahead and start that now. You have a lot of time, but always be ahead of it. Don't be like I am and all of my students waiting till the last minute. Additionally, on the screen right now, you see multiple ways that you can connect with us. Facebook, which we're very active on. You can post questions and continue this conversation there. We've recently started a LinkedIn account as well, just to kind of hit that more professional side. And then finally, our website, which I'll continue to push you to as we prepare to do more things on that and hopefully have a blog post coming on a semi-regular basis. With that, I really want to thank both of our speakers today. It was great to hear from them and what they're doing and how all of you guys participated in this. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'll hang out for a little while and can help talk. But if you've got to go, we completely understand it is a busy time of the semester. So we do thank everyone and hope you guys enjoyed this, and let us know what you want to see for the spring webinar.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, definitely. Great job.
Brian, I got a question for you since you're still on, if you don't have to run.
Sure thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm a little sick today, Jonathan.
Uh-oh. I know me and you had talked a little bit about some of the issues that could arise with AI in college. Was there any resolution or more information on that particular case?
Yeah, for everyone else, we had an issue with a student who was really upset that a professor was using AI to evaluate his work and filed a grievance against that professor and just was kind of raising holy hell every place he could. And the resolution on that was that the professor didn't actually do what the student thought he did. It was a professor who spoke English as a second language and used ChatGPT to kind of take the professor's comments and have them sound better so that the students would understand them better. And the student's perception was that ChatGPT was generating the feedback on the work, and that just wasn't the case. But around my university, that really raised kind of our attention that we need to think through how we're doing this and kind of what the students might think about it. And we got some feedback from some students that were involved in this process, and unanimously, they do not want professors using AI to evaluate their work and replace. What they're worried about is that can replace the expertise of the professors that they're paying to come here to get, right? And they're kind of afraid that the university is just going to replace everybody and have it just be this AI university. So it brought up some issues. I don't know how many of those are realistic or not, but it was certainly an interesting experience.
Yeah, no, thanks for the update. I think it's just important for us to consider the other side of how we use this. And as much as we want our students to be open and honest about this, and we're teaching them how to use it, I think it's important for us to be open and honest with it as well, because I think that's where the protection lies, right? I think AI can be used for a lot of things, but that expertise from us, I'm not an English person, so I always tell them, like, if you want English grammar, I'm just going to put it in AI and let it speak to you. I felt I just should have fell in all my English classes. But when it comes to science and concepts, I can help you with that all day long. And those are my comments. And students are usually pretty good with that when I'm just honest, like, you're going to get nothing different from me than what AI can do as far as grammar and spelling goes.
Brian?
Yeah.
Hello, Brian? Yeah,
Yes.
Dan Derringer. Brian, I'm assuming, like our university, where I'm at, most all of us have administrative requirements now to address AI on our syllabi. What do yours look like?
Oh my gosh. Right now they are so general. It basically says that each instructor can set their own policy.
Okay.
for the
That's
use of
kind of
AI.
what we have. Yeah.
Uh,
So what are the pitfalls you're seeing? Obviously that with the
well,
student in
yeah,
grading and assessing.
but that's the
assessment.
other way, right? So one of the issues the student raised was, well, if the students can't use AI, then how is it fair that professors can? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that what's in a syllabus, everything in a course syllabus for students also applies to the instructor, but
Yeah.
that's the issue it raised. I think, and it's interesting that we looked into a lot of guidance from, Department of Education, from different places about what sort of policies are out there and what we should be worried about. One of the things that this student raised was a FERPA issue, that if his
Right.
work is put into Chat GPT, that could be a FERPA violation. The university lawyers say no, basically. There's nothing in that that suggests that it is, but it's just all of these things are
well,
coming up that nobody thought about.
well, I mean, that's kind of what our address is. I don't, Dr. Hirsch, you're too, but this is so new. It's kind of the wild, wild west out there in a sense, where we don't know really what to protect ourselves from, from the students, protection of them, from us as faculty, from the administration standpoint, the university as a whole. It's going to be interesting how this all evolves, I think, and just try to, but like you said, I mean, if you just go back to the nuts and bolts, so to speak, as my opinion is, of just teaching, right? Do your work, but use it as a tool to help. Yeah, I'm curious on that because, I think what you just said is what all of our campuses that I've talked to, hey man, just have something simple, a general vanilla kind of AI mentioned in your syllabus, and then go do your work.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but none of us want to do anything that gets anybody in trouble.
Yeah.
Like when I did my research before I used that stock avatar because it's kind of dangerous if you go out there and create your own avatar, because those companies could use it for anything. I believe there was an issue, a lawsuit in Australia. There was a faculty member in Australia where someone stole his avatar and showed him getting a DUI, getting arrested by the police. He was called into his administration. He was nowhere near that. He was never arrested for a DUI, but his avatar was. So that raises all kinds of questions, and fears. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today and all the good conversation. Yeah, and we'll be all talking soon. I know we'll see each other at meetings or the webinar, and so just reach out to any of us if anyone needs anything from the SIG or if there's any way we can help you guys. So thanks everyone today for attending.
Thanks,